leaves a little message, signs their name. That's what I was doing shortly before we get off the air. I had an old man moment yesterday, Grace, and I'm ashamed to admit it because old man moments around here are generally reserved for Steely. Here's the reality. If you're like me and you are human in modern society, odds are you have a bunch of keys and or a bunch of key fobs on your key ring that are all designed to get you access to one thing or another, be it your car or your apartment, house, shed, whatever. And every so often, the wires in my brain get crossed. And so I think yesterday, as I was leaving the studio, I was thinking about the gym because that's where I was going next. I was going straight from the studio to the gym to get a workout in. And so the gym was on my mind, and I have this little key fob that gets me access to my gym out in Blanchard. And so I walk out to my car, and I hold my gym key fob against the handle of my car door for like 2 or 3 seconds before I realize, oh, wait, I'm an idiot. This does not unlock my car. Something like that ever happened to you?
All the time.
Okay, good. Glad I'm not the only
100%.
one. Glad I'm not the only one in our age demographic. It's like, man, I just became Steely.
Bro, life moves too fast for you to keep everything straight.
Man, life does move exceptionally fast. It doesn't feel like it moves fast here in late July because, like, man, football's so close yet so far away.
Mm-hmm.
Fall camp starts tomorrow, but it's still another 4.5 weeks to the football season. Can we just get Sooner football here already? I did experience, I just saw this on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line just a few moments ago as I was prepping for this show. Did experience one of the annual rites of passage. I believe it was Jim in Arlington on the text line that asked, will OU primarily defer this year until the second half if they win the coin toss, or will they get confident and elect to receive? Whenever we get the coin toss question, that's how I know we're close, Grayson. Because I kid you not, it happens every single year.
Does it really?
Right about this time on the calendar, somebody inevitably asks, so what's OU going to do when they win the coin toss?
See, it's interesting because that's mostly conventional football now, is if you win the coin toss, you're deferring to the second half. I didn't think this was something that caught the eyes of a particular fan base.
I genuinely, I never know how to answer that question because my immediate thought is like, do people expect me to have an answer to that? I get it. You know, I'm an insider. I do my best to stay abreast of everything that's happening within the program, but you know, in my conversations with folks in that building, I'm not going, so what's the plan this fall with the coin tosses? Gonna receive, gonna defer? Like, what's the first choice gonna be?
I mean, Sooner fans could get their wish and OU lose every coin toss, so the chances that you receive at the beginning of every single game kind of goes up if that happens.
That is also one of those questions to which I could completely make up an answer, and no one would ever know. That's what I should do. Yeah, well, you know, it just depends on the circumstance. Definitely just depends on what the school, what the program feels about their opposition based on what they've seen on film. How they're going to set themselves up for 60 minutes of competitive football. Are they better off taking the ball to start? Are they better off putting the onus on the opposition and trusting their defense to hold serve first drive of the game? I mean, to a certain extent, that's probably true, Grayson. That's how it's going to go.
I was about to say, whether you BS that answer or not, that's probably the answer you would get if you asked a coach that question.
Oh, Jim in Arlington said, last year you knew we were deferring with that offense. Yeah, every time Oklahoma's offense went on the field first for a game last year, it was more or less a question of, okay, how quickly is this drive going to end?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
3 and out, or did they manage a first down? Did they score on the first drive all year? Was it the Ole Miss game where they actually, like Joe John Finley's first game as offensive coordinator? I think
yes.
They went all the way down the field. I can't recall whether they scored or whether that drive ended in opposing territory. But they had a good first drive in that game. Other than that, man.
Well, the first drive of the Alabama game was pretty solid, was it not? Or was it the second drive I'm thinking of?
I do not recall. I do not recall. All I know was that it was a major talking point throughout the season is, man, this team just gets off to terrible starts offensively every single freaking week.
Tattoo Baker says Auburn rushing TD.
Auburn rushing TD.
Was that Michael
No,
Hawkins?
that was the second, because that was the second drive of the game. I'm pretty sure first drive, Oklahoma wound up punting pretty quickly. I can't recall whether it was a 3-and-out or if they managed a first down before they punted it away. But no, what happened was Oklahoma punted on their first possession. Then Auburn went down all the way to the 1-yard line or close to it. Oklahoma's defense had 2 goal line stands in that football game. One of them was very early on.
Yes.
They turned them over, and then Oklahoma launched the drive that culminated in the Michael Hawkins 48-yard rushing touchdown. So, no, that was not the opening drive, at least not to my recollection. Lost City Sooner says, well, even if we didn't defer, Jackson would fumble it back to the other team so fast it didn't even matter. Let's get off of 2024, folks. Let's talk about 2025. Let's talk about the things that there are to be excited about surrounding this Oklahoma football team in the year of our Lord, 2025. Colin Claremore says, coin toss, that's the type of content I subscribe to OU Insider for. Don't be giving away any company secrets. It's always a battle I have to fight on this show, Cole. Try not to give away too much so people still have reason to go subscribe over at OU Insider, and the members over there still feel like they're getting their money's worth. But I don't believe I have ever spent any amount of time writing or discussing the coin toss and what Oklahoma's strategy therein is going to be.
They might be giving you content idea.
Maybe.
Just
Look out for that
saying.
byline tomorrow morning. What does Oklahoma plan to do with the coin toss in 2025? There are probably some folks out there that would eat that up. 405-651-3439 is the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line for those of you that want to chime in throughout the show. The show is brought to you by Dorsey Jones GMC out in El Reno, family-owned and operated. Half-price oil changes on Saturdays. And obviously GMC offers some of the most reliable trucks and SUVs on the market today, so let them get you set up out at Dorsey Jones GMC in El Reno. That UPS guy on the text line says, I'm taking my son and daughter to their first Meet the Sooners Day and was wondering what to expect, and do y'all know who all will be there? I do not know who all will be there, UPS guy. But what to expect, I mean, Meet the Sooners Day pretty much every single year is, well, I mean, it is what it sounds like. Especially for the little kids, man. They get an opportunity to go around, meet some of their heroes, get autographs, take pictures, all that good stuff. So I'm glad that OU continues to do that every August. Good opportunity for the younger fans in particular to interact with some of the guys that they're going to watch making plays on the gridiron this fall for the Crimson and Cream. Now, Grayson, as we dig into recruiting here, and we have a lot of texts about a lot of different topics on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line that we will have to unpack throughout the show. But, man, so we have one commitment date concretely on the schedule for a target in the 2026 class. The waiting continues to be indefinite with 4-star wideout Davian Gross, with 3-star defensive tackle T-Ron Richardson, with 4-star defensive end Jake Krell, but 4-star defensive tackle Elijah Golden is going to be making his decision on August 9th. He plays at Cardinal Mooney High School down in Florida, originally from the state of Virginia, and his Final Four is Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Alabama, and Virginia Tech. And here's what's interesting to me as we approach the finish line here, Grayson. Oklahoma already has one defensive tackle commit in Brian Harris in this 26 class. It has become canon that every single year Oklahoma drops a good chunk of change to bring in one defensive tackle. In the 2024 class, it was Jaden Jackson. Now, they spent big for David Stone, too, but they didn't have the biggest offer for David Stone. More or less, there's one defensive tackle every single cycle where Oklahoma essentially decides, okay, we are getting this guy. We are going to make sure we get this guy. In 2024, they made sure they got Jaden Jackson. In 2025, they made sure they got Trent Wilson. Now, here we are in the 2026 cycle. Might Elijah Golden be the guy that Jim Nagy and company decide that we simply have to have?
Yeah, you would have to, and you would hope that they hold him into that regard because they only have one defensive tackle committed right now, and that is Brian Harris. Because you lost out on Valdon Sohn and others. So, yeah, that would fit the criteria for we gotta have this guy. Now, are you in the worst possible situation with defensive tackle given numbers? Not necessarily, but you expect Dominic Williams will be gone after this year. Jaden Jackson could be gone in the near future, if not after this year, but sometime in the next couple of years he could be gone. So you do want to replenish that stock, but it's not the most desperate of situations like, say, linebacker that we've been talking about for a while, but you don't want to ever go through a class where you take one defensive tackle, especially if you have the resources to make sure that you take another.
And keep in mind, Oklahoma at one time had 3 defensive tackles committed last cycle. They had Trent Wilson committed, they had Kamari Moore committed, and they had Floyd Boucard committed. Moore eventually decommitted. Word was he wasn't going to make the grade at Oklahoma, so he wound up at Iowa State. You had Boucard flip to USC. Lincoln Mule Shoe Riley with a little chicanery there. But Trent Wilson wound up being the only signing, which was fine because Oklahoma wasn't really in a place where they needed to reload a defensive tackle, but that time is coming soon. And you lose Grayson Halton, you lose Dominic Williams after this coming season. Here's a very key factor that I think it's overlooked when we're discussing the defensive tackle picture and the outlook on the roster at that position is that Nigel Smith is in that defensive tackle room now. And Nigel Smith is a really good football player, man. Nigel Smith has the potential to be special at the University of Oklahoma. And frankly, he is and has always been, in my mind, more of a defensive tackle at the next level than a defensive end. So I'm glad this transition is happening for him. I would say he probably still sees minimal action in 2025 just because of the depth that Oklahoma has and the experience that Oklahoma has as a defensive tackle, but he could be an integral cog in the rotation as early as 2026. And he's got 4 years of eligibility ahead of him, as we sit here today. Took a red shirt in 2024. So that's going to provide some additional stability for Oklahoma. The wild card in that room, a lot of people are going to look at that Utah State transfer, Ricky Lolohea, as somebody that, maybe he becomes something in the long run. Maybe he becomes a serious contributor. I tell you, one guy that I'm increasingly excited about, just based on the things that I've continued to hear and the progression that has occurred over his first 2 going on 3 years in the Oklahoma football program, is Marcus Strong. Marcus Strong was never a guy that was going to see the field much as a freshman or as a sophomore. This was always more of a project for Todd Bates and the Sooners. This was a guy that they were going to have to develop, but develop him they have. And I think we're getting to the point where if Oklahoma didn't have probably the best group of defensive tackles in the SEC, you'd start to see Marcus Strong on the field with more regularity in 2025. As it is, I think he's probably waiting until 2026 as well. But there's certainly a world in which your defensive tackle rotation come 26 obviously consists of Jaden Jackson, David Stone, but then Nigel Smith and Marcus Strong as well, stepping into the roles that Jackson and Stone hold right now as the understudies for Halton and Williams.
So do you think it's imperative that Oklahoma take multiple defensive tackles? Or do you think that if Elijah Golden ends up at Notre Dame or Alabama and Oklahoma just says, you know what, we're going to throw our hands up and we're going to ride it with Brian Harris, do you think they're okay with just one defensive tackle in this class after taking one defensive tackle in last year's class?
Yeah, no, they're not okay, and they shouldn't be okay with that.
Okay, my thought's the same.
Yeah, because you have to, at the very least, replenish what you know you're losing, and you know you're losing Williams and Halton.
Yes.
And so I think Oklahoma could get away with only taking 2, be it Harris and Golden or Harris and T-Ron Richardson. But I don't see this as the type of cycle where Oklahoma can afford to have less than 2. They don't need to have 3, even though I know they would like to have 3. They'd love to finish out with both Golden and Richardson to pair with Harris. But if they only wind up with 2, that is sufficient in my mind. And I would feel differently if Nigel Smith was still at defensive end, but with the knowledge that he is now preparing and bulking to be ready to play defensive tackle in the SEC as opposed to defensive end. Feels to me like this is a 2-take class. A third would be a luxury. It's a luxury that Oklahoma can certainly afford. And should they land Golden on August 9th, I would imagine at that point, Teron Richardson becomes the A1 priority for Oklahoma down the stretch at that position. I don't know whether they will expand the board at all. I think with where they're at in the cycle, it's probably Golden and or Richardson or bust. I think they can go 1 for 2. I think there's a world in which they go 2 for 2. But 1 for 2 feels like a necessity. Gunny of Stutzman Army asked, who is that Ricky Lolohea? That one slipped by you, Gunny. I don't fault you. There were more consequential things happening in the spring portal for Oklahoma, i.e. the addition of Jake Michaela, the addition of Jermichael Carter. But the Sooners did pick up Ricky Lolohea, former Oklahoma State Cowboy and former Utah State defensive tackle. Spent the 2023 season in Stillwater, spent 24 at Utah State, where he played under current Oklahoma linebackers coach Nate Dreiling, who was the interim head coach at Utah State at the time. So he has 3 years of eligibility remaining as we sit here today. He's somebody that could factor into the equation for Oklahoma at a certain point, probably not substantially in 2025, though. It is Arkansas Team Takeover Day here on the Ref Sports Radio Network, presented by Landers CDJR. When you choose Landers, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram in Norman, you're not just getting a great vehicle, you're supporting a dealership that cares about the community. From reliable sedans to rugged trucks and spacious SUVs, they have the perfect vehicle to fit your needs and budget at Landers CDJR of Norman. That's LandersCDJRNorman.com. Coming up next, given that it is Arkansas Takeover Day, we'll take a brief look back at some notable OU Arkansas recruiting battles on the trail over the years, of which there have been a few. And we'll discuss much more OU football and Cruton with all y'all on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. Keep it here on the Ref, the home of Sooner fans. We'll be back.
Considering refinancing your mortgage? Now might be the perfect time to start planning. With rates on the move, Stride Bank can help you determine if you may be able to lower your monthly payments, shorten your loan term, or tap into your home's equity. Stride's expert mortgage advisors will work with you to tailor a solution that fits your needs. With local roots and national reach, Stride Bank is your go-to partner for all your banking needs. Stride Bank, your trusted financial partner since 1913. Find out more at stridebank.com. Stride Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
We all play a role in keeping our communities safe. Oklahoma is no stranger to attacks. It's now easier than ever. If you see something, say something. The free and anonymous Protect OK app allows instant reporting of suspicious activity, both in schools and the community. You can help keep your family and friends safe.
Protect OK.
Protect OK.
Protect OK.
Protect OK.
Download the Protect OK app today in the Apple App or Google Play stores. Funded by the Oklahoma Office of Homeland Security.
Back to school means back to your favorite casino.
And Riverwind Jackpots are back in session.
Win with a spin on all your favorite electronic games.
Take your hand to the next level in our premier poker room.
Keep the good times rolling every Friday in August with your wild card.
And play for your share of the $200,000 Under Neon birthday giveaway.
And celebrate 19 years of the best food, drinks, and service in the metro.
Only at Riverwind Casino.
At Meals on Wheels of Norman, we deliver more than just meals. We deliver connection, compassion, and care to homebound seniors right here in our community. But we need your help. Volunteer drivers are the heart of what we do, and just a little of your time can make a big impact. Join our team, make a difference. Visit MealsOnWheelsNorman.com or contact us at 405-321-7272 to sign up as a volunteer and start serving smiles today.
The Norman Chamber of Commerce encourages you to shop small this summer. At Heyday, a day of fun awaits the whole family. Laser tag, mini golf, ropes courses, bowling, and an exclusive 21 and up area. And now Hey Pickle Pickle is the spot in Norman for pickleball, whether you are new or a pro. Heyday and Hey Pickle Pickle pack a ton of fun. Make a splash at Signature Pool and Patio, Norman's premier swimming pool service, cleaning, patio, spa, and pool accessory destination. Get your patio essentials, ledge loungers, pool floats, umbrellas, pool toys, grill necessities, and so much more. Plus, stay local and get all your bases covered at Play It Again Sports. Get new and quality used gear right here in Norman. Buy, sell, or trade new and used sports equipment, including baseball, softball, football, tennis, soccer, and more. Remember, shopping small this summer can make a big impact.
Life is yours to spend. Spend it expanding your balance. Spend it expanding your mind. Spend it wondering what comes next. Spend it trusting that God has a plan. Spend it taking small steps in your own life. Spend it making a big impact on someone else's. First United Bank. Spend life wisely.
Hey Sooner fans, it's almost football season, and there's no better time to gear up than right now at Balfour of Norman, your locally owned headquarters for all things Sooner. Whether you're searching for your new lucky game day polo, tee, or hat, we've got you covered from top brands like Nike, Jordan, and Tommy Bahama. Looking to take your tailgate or watch party up a notch? Check out our great selection of OU glassware, flags, and serving pieces. Come support local, stock up on Sooner style, and get ready to yell Boomer Sooner, only at Balfour of Norman, where Sooner spirit lives year-round.
Oh, yeah, I'm old enough to remember the 1972 Sugar Bowl, New Year's Day, Tulane Stadium. Auburn took the field, 9-1 record. They had the Heisman Trophy winner at quarter.
Oklahoma defeated Arkansas. Nothing. The Sooners currently hold the all-time series over the Razorbacks in football 10-4 with one tie.
You and Steely get your reads scrambled there a little bit.
Yeah, we did. That was on me.
Oh, you Arkansas. One of those series that, I don't know, I feel like there's some rivalry potential there in the long run between the two programs, if for no other reason than proximity. Similarity in terms of culture, to an extent, okay? Oklahoma is not Arkansas, and Arkansas is not Oklahoma, to be clear. But two states that are very, very loyal to their flagship football institutions. And there have been quite a few real solid OU Arkansas recruiting battles on the trail over the years. OU has won some, they have lost some. Remember Luke Haas was at one time committed to Oklahoma, the outstanding tight end out of Bixby. He wound up signing with Arkansas. He's now at Ole Miss, but spent the first 2 seasons of his collegiate career up at Arkansas. And generally, it's those guys from the 918, Grayson, that OU and Arkansas tend to battle over, because Tulsa is, for all intents and purposes, exactly halfway between Norman and Fayetteville. Geographically, it is almost the exact same distance from Tulsa to Fayetteville or from Tulsa to Norman.
And that's where Oklahoma State gets involved, too.
Yes, they do.
With the 918. We've seen that already this recruiting class.
There have been quite a few Oklahoma State-Arkansas recruiting battles up in the 918 as well. But looking back on guys that are currently on OU's roster, let's think about some of the battles that Oklahoma did win for coveted recruits that also heavily considered Arkansas. How about Michael Hawkins? Michael Hawkins, for a long, long, long time, had OU and Arkansas as the two front runners in his recruitment. It was OU Arkansas, OU Arkansas, OU Arkansas for a long, long time for Michael Hawkins. Then Kendall Briles, who was the offensive coordinator at Arkansas, left for TCU, and at that point it became OU TCU for Hawkins. It was always going to be tough for him not to choose OU, and ultimately he did. But Arkansas was a big-time player for a long time in both his recruitment and the recruitment of his younger brother, Malik. Arkansas was actually Malik's first scholarship offer. So the Sooners had to fend off Arkansas for the Hawkins boys. Who else? Alex Shieldknight. Alex Shieldknight is an Arkansas legacy. His mom played basketball at Arkansas. So, with him being from out in northeast Oklahoma, Wagner to be precise, he gave heavy consideration to the Razorbacks, but ultimately settled on Oklahoma. Any others that spring to mind on Oklahoma's current roster, let us know on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. Some of your favorite OU Arkansas recruiting battles of years gone by. I guess it wasn't a battle for too terribly long, but Trenae Washington was considering OU and Arkansas. He committed early, obviously committed in the Sooners' favor. But yeah, OU Arkansas, they go toe-to-toe on a pretty regular basis with with a lot of credit due to regionality there. They're recruiting a lot of the same players, generally from eastern Oklahoma, certainly from Arkansas. Oklahoma beat out Arkansas last cycle for two of the natural state's top players in Marcus Wimberly and Amarian Robinson. Marcus Wimberly was committed to Arkansas at one point, and Amarian Robinson actually took a game day visit to Arkansas while committed to the Sooners, as a matter of fact. But ultimately, they both signed with OU. So on the whole, at least over the last several years, the Sooners have gotten the better of the Razorbacks on the trail. Kyle from Salisaw says, recruiting battle with Luke Haz. Yes, that was the first one we referenced at the beginning of the segment. Greg in Muskogee says, glad that was a technical error on y'all's end. My iPhone did not appreciate it after I threw it. Yes, that wasn't your phone acting up. We had some technical difficulties on our end.
You know, when you put the Auburn spots right next to the Arkansas spots, they can get a little bit mixed up every once in a while.
A listener down in Texas says, I need you guys to get it together over there. When the station goes dark like that, I start getting concerned. I need my fill. We're going to give you your fill, don't you worry. A 405 listener says, Fayetteville is a fun town to visit for a game. I've been to Fayetteville on several occasions.
I like Fayetteville.
Yeah, never for an Arkansas football game. I'm excited for that trip whenever the first opportunity arises for Oklahoma to go play a road game against Arkansas. Reformed Homer says, Arkansas seems like an Oklahoma State type opponent, not really a rival. I guess I can see the argument, but, I mean, you got to have a new Bedlam, right? We're not getting Bedlam again for at least another decade. So
Which
even
is a travesty.
Yeah, I agree. I would like Bedlam to be played every single year. Do I miss it individually? Not a ton. But I will say having an in-state rivalry like that is just it's good for Oklahoma football. And I'm talking about the state of Oklahoma, not the University of Oklahoma. It's good for the football environment around the state.
And here's the thing, too, why Arkansas is so interesting is because you need that replacement to Bedlam. So is that going to be LSU? Could it potentially be Arkansas? But you need somebody that you're going to play during rivalry weekend that's going to be your second biggest rival, obviously, to Texas. For my money, it should be LSU because LSU doesn't have a natural one right now, but Arkansas would make a lot of sense. The Battle of the Reds.
Mongo asks, was Davon Jordan considering Arkansas? He may have had that offer, but to my recollection, especially over the last few months of his process, it was OU-TCU. Oklahoma State was involved, Alabama was involved, but it was mostly OU-TCU down the stretch for Davon Jordan. That recruitment was kind of all over the place for a little while. I do recall that. Jim in Arlington wants to know what happened to Stacy Wilkins. He was highly recruited out of Arkansas. Yes, he was. Until Marcus Wimberly and Amarian Robinson, Stacy Wilkins was the last signee out of the natural state for the OU football machine. That was in the 2019 cycle. I can't remember where in Arkansas he was from. I think it was Little Rock. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, 4-star offensive lineman. And he wound up signing with the Sooners, spent 3 years with the program, I would like to say. And then as I recall, he transferred to Louisiana Monroe. I do believe it was Louisiana Monroe where Stacy Wilkins finished out his collegiate career. It's a name I haven't heard in a long, long time. Long time.
Well done.
Camden, Arkansas. Thank you, Jim in Arlington. Camden, Arkansas. That's right.
405 Taylor says, Parker, what's the word on Cortland Guillory as we go into fall camp? His high school tape jumped off the page with his physicality.
Okay, yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about Cortland Guillory. Let's talk about that cornerback group as a whole. I think Cortland Guillory is going to play a lot of snaps for Oklahoma in 2025. It would not shock me if he wound up starting at a certain point. Now, I think it would take an injury. It would take Eli Bowen missing substantial time or Gentry Williams missing substantial time. I think it would probably take an injury for Cortland Guillory to wind up sliding into a starting role, but it must be conceded that that is a feasible possibility. Gentry Williams, Eli Bowen, they've had their share of injury issues. So, Cortland Guillory, to me, based on all that I have heard, based on all that we saw during spring, I think I would go so far as to say he is neck and neck with Jacoby Johnson going into fall camp for number 3 on that depth chart at cornerback. Now, I am very, very impressed on the whole with the word coming out of the Switzer Center with regard to that cornerback group because, frankly, Grayson, I'm a little concerned about it, and I have been, if for no other reason than lack of depth. The Sooners wanted to bring in an experienced corner in the portal. They couldn't land one, so it was kind of, all right, we're rolling with what we got. And Gentry Williams is a great player when healthy. Eli Bowen is a great player when healthy. But you have to add that when healthy asterisk. And behind them, there's not a ton of experience. Jacoby Johnson has played some, but not a lot. The other guys are youngsters, man. But it is really, really stark to me how much more the front office and the staff seem to believe in this cornerback group than people like you and me. And I think that's a good thing because generally it's the opposite, right? Like the public is confident about a particular player or a particular position group, and folks inside the program are a little bit leery. But I tell you, man, inside the building, there's a lot of excitement about what Oklahoma has at the cornerback position between Bowen, Gentry Williams, Jacoby Johnson, Cortland Guillory, and 2 guys that have really made big strides throughout the offseason in Jeremiah Newcomb and Davon Jordan, both of whom are entering their second year with the program. You add in the fact that Kendall Dolby's probably going to play a bit of outside corner for Oklahoma this year, and Malik Hawkins, although he's got some versatility and actually repped more at Cheetah than at corner in the spring, he has really come on strong as well.
Would you say that corner is the most boom or bust position on this OU team?
Yep.
That's
without question.
That's where I'm landing on this because you have the operative word of when healthy with your 2 starters who at their best can be excellent. Behind them, let's break down what we have going on behind those dudes. Jacoby Johnson, who at best could be a good player, but at worst is a 2-way experiment gone wrong.
Mm-hmm.
After him, you've got a true freshman in Cortland Guillory. Seems like he's going to be a fun player, but true freshman. Behind him, you can throw Davon Jordan, Jeremiah Newcomb, and Malik Hawkins all into there. Not much experience. So when they struck out in the portal, not being able to land Ethan O'Connor, not being able to get it done, or really even if they really wanted to get it done, with a guy like a Denver Harris, who ended up in the portal again before he ended up at UNLV, this is the kind of thing that you're going to have to roll with. Now, if these guys, Gentry and Eli, are healthy, then we don't have to climb down into the depths of what Oklahoma has deeper in the corner room. But if they miss time, and it seems like a reasonable bet to believe that at least one will miss some time, maybe not substantial, but some time, we have no idea what's going on behind them. We really, really don't. So I think that the staff, I agree with you on this, that if the staff is saying, yeah, we got dudes, then that's great. But throwing true freshmen out there at corner in the SEC is not something that most SEC teams do. I don't, how many, can you think of any SEC teams, and text line help us out too, that are throwing out true freshman DBs a lot? Like the first one that pops to mind is Malachi Moore got pretty substantial snaps rotationally in his true freshman year at Alabama, but nothing else comes directly to mind in recent memory.
You got to be a special guy, man, at that position. You really got to be a special guy. And I think Cortland Guillory is a special guy. And especially when you look at his listed size, 6 feet, 183 pounds, right? He's not going to have the natural deficiency. And I'm hesitant to call it a deficiency because that makes it feel like his game is flawed. I don't really think it is. But like Eli Bowen's only 5'9", and so Eli Bowen naturally is going to have some challenges going up against bigger receivers. We saw this against Missouri last year when Drew Pine went top shelf to Theo Weiss, and Eli Bowen played the ball about as well as you could play it, but it ended up going 2 inches over his outstretched fingers because he's just not that tall. Cortland Guillory is taller. He's got long arms. he's really technically sound and he's really polished. And I think that's why it's so hard for many defensive backs to see the field as true freshmen, is because they don't have the polish yet. They're athletic. They're fast. You have to be to play cornerback at the P4 level, but it takes some seasoning. It takes some polish for most of these guys. I think Cortland Guillory has and has had enough polish. Now, I will say this as well. On the topic of weight gain, because seeing Cortland Guillory listed at 183 pounds, that was highly encouraging to me. Highly encouraging. Because I had some apprehensions about his frame when I went and saw him last year as a senior in high school. It was clear he needed to put on some weight, and it looks like he has. Another guy that's put on some weight, man? Tristan Haynes is listed at 185 on the latest roster.
And he was, what, 160 coming out?
Like, he weighed in at the All-American Bowl at like 163, I think.
Yeah.
Real skinny. And, you know, he's kind of similar to Cortland physically. Tall, athletic.
Lanky arms.
But real lanky. Real wiry.
Yeah.
And so the fact that he already has put on 20-plus pounds, I don't think Tristan Haynes going to play in year one. I don't.
Okay.
I think he is a guy that needs that polish, and that's fine. He can afford to take a red shirt in all likelihood. But, man, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit more intrigued about the potential that exists for Tristan Haynes at the University of Oklahoma, a little bit more so than I was before that fall roster dropped, because I had my questions as to whether he was going to be able to pack on the weight. Man, he's got one of those like distance runner type of builds. And so the fact that he's put as much on as quickly as he has, man, that's a great sign. Great sign for that Oklahoma cornerback room.
Real quickly, before we go to break, Bobby and BA hit us up on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. Willie, I take issue with you saying Jordan is a two-way experiment gone wrong. He was a true freshman. You are always trying to point out everything so you can be negative. Well, thank you for your selective hearing, because I literally said verbatim that at best he's a really good player. And at worst, if you would like me to expound upon it, Bobby, at worst, when you play or when you are trying to play two positions and they're throwing you around between rooms, that can affect your play. You know, sometimes we don't break into everything for the sake of conciseness. But there you go. By the way, I've also been on the record saying I think Oklahoma's going to win 8 games. I don't think I'm increasingly negative.
405-651-3439. You think Pickle Pony here is excessively negative?
Jeez.
Let us know on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line.
Why are you always doing this to me?
Also, fire any of your pre-camp OU football and recruiting questions at us, and we'll hit a bunch of them coming up in this final segment. You're listening to Locked In here on The Ref, the home of Sooner fans.
Sound off any time of day on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439. Knippelmeyer Chevrolet in Blanchard, USA.
My name is Corporal Bradley Joseph Seitz.
Jerry Reed.
Kate Weber.
These are real veterans facing a real challenge.
I have PTSD.
And I have PTSD.
I have PTSD.
Post-traumatic stress disorder can happen to anyone.
I was still in a war zone in my mind.
But treatment can turn your life around.
Treatment has really saved my life.
To learn about PTSD and how treatment can help you, call your local VA medical center or visit ptsd.va.gov.
My son Ian was diagnosed with a brain tumor at the age of 16 months. We had no hope until St. Jude rescued us. He's alive because of what St. Jude has done. He's here because of the doctors who came before, their blood, their sweat, their tears, the knowledge accumulated and shared, with everyone else around the world. This is how we help kids beat cancer all over.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
I thought mixing bleach with my floor cleaner would take the stain out.
When my youngest ate the dog's medicine, that was a new one.
I was trying to protect my garden, but I accidentally sprayed myself with pesticide.
So I called 1-800-222-1222, the poison helpline.
A poison expert helped me figure out what to do next.
I was connected to someone who spoke Spanish.
They answered my questions.
It was free.
It was confidential.
It was real help in real time.
Keep the poison experts in your pocket. 1-800-222-1222.
After a car crash, life can be hard. You're hurt, stressed, and then when you need help the most, the insurance company doesn't care.
They drag their feet, question your injuries, and make things difficult. They put profits over people.
At McIntyre Law, we level the playing field. We take on the billion-dollar insurance companies so you can focus on what matters, getting your life back. Call us at 405-777-7000. You deserve better.
For 3 generations, the John M. Ireland and Son Funeral Home and Chapel in Morris continued to serve the community by giving back to local schools, charitable organizations, and first responders.
We provide pre-planning for funerals and cremation services at the most reasonable prices.
We are proud to be a family-owned and operated funeral home.
Award-winning funeral home year after year, our family believes in serving the people of our community.
I'm John Ireland.
And I'm Solon Daniels.
You've got our word on it.
Hey, all you electricians out there. Are you unhappy with your job? Ever feel like some employers see you as just a name on a time card instead of a human being? Well, at Wade Electric, they're a third-generation family-owned company serving the Norman and Oklahoma City area for over 50 years. They value their employees and want to help them succeed and enjoy their career in the electrical field. If you are unsatisfied with your current situation and are ready to make a change, call Wade Electric at 405-329-1940 to hear about their benefits and learn how to join the team.
My name is Ariel. I moved to the U.S. at 19. I spoke no English and I struggled finding job opportunities. Everything I have, I owe to the Adult Literacy Center and getting my high school diploma at age 22.
It was an honor helping you achieve your greatness. Now you're helping others achieve theirs. It inspires me.
When you graduate, they graduate. Find free and supportive adult education centers near you at finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
This is Mark Van Hoos, owner of Van Hoos Fence. Van Hoos Fence has years of experience and proven superior performance, kind of like a certain head ball coach.
We know Van Hoos Fence offers the best value and service for your residential, commercial, or sports fencing needs. Whether it's a new install or repair work, let Mark and his team at Van Hoos Fence be your trusted resource.
Call us today at 405-735-1167.
Save yourself from Googling it up. Go to vhfence.com. They will work with you in a great way.
405-651-3439 is the Knibbelmeyer Chevrolet text line where you can chime in throughout the show. Not a ton of recruiting storylines right now in the world of OU football. But camp kicks off this week, and therefore taking the opportunity to answer a ton of listeners' questions, as we do every year about this time, because all of you have so many questions leading into fall camp and the 2025 season. We're doing our best to hit as many as possible over the course of the show and doing what we can to get you through the drought, in which not only is there no football, but not a ton happening on the recruiting trail as well. Mongo with an interesting question. If or when Fasusi earns the starting left tackle spot this season, does Coach B move Sexton to right tackle? Mongo, look, I'm not trying to dampen your excitement about the 5-star in Michael Fasusi, the prized signee of the 2025 cycle. I think it is a long shot that Fasusi sees the field in any meaningful capacity in 2025. He's a true freshman. You don't see many true freshman offensive linemen playing SEC ball. Not to mention the fact that, yes, Jacob Sexton is your projected starter at left tackle, but it's not even clear to me, Grayson, whether Fasusi is going to be option 2, because Logan Howland is sitting there on the depth chart, and he actually played pretty well down the stretch for Oklahoma at left tackle last year. Yeah, like he got thrown into the fire last year. He very obviously wasn't ready. He had to learn some lessons the hard way. But he did, and his play took a step up as last season progressed. Later in the year, November rolled around, he was playing a lot better ball.
He got incrementally better.
Mm-hmm. And so is Fasusi even your second-string tackle? I don't know. I think it is in Fasusi and Ryan Foje's best interest, and I think it speaks well of Oklahoma's overall situation on the offensive line if those two are allowed to redshirt. If you don't see Fasusi or Foje at all in 2025, I think that's a good thing because Oklahoma didn't have a reason to break the emergency glass at that point.
Yeah, 100%. And here's the thing with 5 stars too, and Texas just went through it with Arch Manning. Don't rush to get to the 5 stars because if you don't get to them, I know they're top of mind because it's their true freshman year, and every year people do this around every fan base with 5 stars. Not every 5 star is Jeremiah Smith. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Don't rush to get to the 5 stars because if you don't see them, like Parker just said, you're doing something right if your 5-star true freshman is doing what most true freshmen in the SEC do, and that is redshirt.
A listener, Outlaw Devil, asked, is Danny Okoye going to pass PJ on the depth chart? Well, I'll tell you this much. I think Danny Okoye and PJ aren't competing for snaps at the same spot. Now, I think PJ is a dexterous enough, a fast enough, and a sizable enough dude that he could play at either defensive end position. He could play on either side. But you have your weak side guys and you have your strong side guys. Right? R. Mason Thomas, speed rusher, weak side dude. He is the guy at that position. The strong side, I think, is where you're going to see PJ. And you'll see him in a situational role because the top 2 at that position right now appear to be Taylor Wine and Marvin Jones Jr. Now, that could change during fall camp. But PJ, I think he and Okoye are 2 guys that I think PJ, most of his action is probably going to come on the strong side, and a lot of Okoye's action is going to come on the weak side. I think I would expect him to be the guy that is primarily spelling R. Mason Thomas. Again, I'm saying this now on July 29th. I could be singing a different tune on August 29th, the day before Oklahoma opens their 2025 season. But I do think you will see quite a bit of Danny Okoye because R. Mason Thomas isn't going to play every single freaking snap. I think Oklahoma will use at least 4, probably 5 defensive ends on a regular basis. And as I see it, those 5 are R. Mason Thomas, Taylor Wine, Marvin Jones, PJ, Danny Okoye. PJ, in many ways, I think is probably your swing guy in there.
You mentioned Taylor Wine ahead of Marvin Jones Jr.
I did.
Did you do that on purpose, and do you think Taylor Wine ends up as that defensive end opposite of R. Mason Thomas?
Right now, yes.
Okay.
Because what I've learned over the years is that if everybody is talking up a guy throughout the offseason, if everybody is talking up a guy in the strides he's made in the spring on into the fall, then it's legit. You know, you take it with a grain of salt when one coach or a couple players or a couple university figures here or there, they have praises to sing about a specific player because there are going to be nice things to be said about pretty much everybody on the roster. But when everybody from all angles is piling praise onto a guy like Taylor Wine saying, no, he's legit poised for a breakout, that's when I'm inclined to believe that there is something there. And so, yeah, I'm a believer right now that if the season started today, Taylor Wine would start opposite R. Mason Thomas. It's going to be a really intriguing battle throughout camp between him and Marvin Jones to see who emerges as the starter there. And obviously you're going to be seeing a bunch of both guys regardless.
And on the perspective of the coaching staff, do you think that they would be, in your estimation, do you think they'd be disappointed that Marvin Jones Jr. didn't win that battle, given that they had to pay money to bring him over from Florida State and whatnot? Or would you think the excitement would just be that much higher for Taylor Wine?
Yeah, well, I mean, 2 sides of the same coin, right? On the one hand, you could be disappointed that Marvin Jones isn't your clear starter. On the other hand, you could be pleased that you have a guy in Taylor Wine who has taken enough strides over the course of the offseason that he has now supplanted a guy that was a former 5-star recruit and played some pretty decent ball last year at Florida State in Marvin Jones. Chonky Chuck says, Okoye and Wine on defense, Mateer and Elijah Thomas on offense are all fueling my excitement and my blind optimism for this team. Elijah Thomas, man. That's it. Like, I think especially if Giovanni and or Jaden Gibson are not available to start the season, I think there are going to be a lot of targets in non-con play for Elijah Thomas. And to me, there are plenty of parallels to the 2020 season and Marvin Mims' emergence as a true freshman. Because going into the season, you didn't necessarily look at Oklahoma's wide receiver depth chart and think, okay, yep, everything is set up nicely for a true freshman to seize the bull by the horns and be a dude in this room. But Marvin Mims' very first collegiate game was a non-conference 48-0 shutout of Missouri State, in which he was able to shake loose over the middle, get behind the safety. Spencer Rattler found him for a 58-yard touchdown, and it was on. A couple snaps in the Missouri State game turned into more snaps the following week and more snaps the week after that. And by midseason, there was an argument to be made that Marvin Mims wasn't just playing better than any wide receiver on Oklahoma's roster, that he was playing better than any offensive player on Oklahoma's roster.
Yep. Drew from Flower Mound says, I think y'all are short-selling Jacoby Johnson. He played quite a bit later in the season. What do we know about third-year players in BV's defensive system? Just saying. Because I can only think of 3 freshmen who started at corner. A&M did it in 22 with Denver Harris, LSU with Derek Stingley, and Florida with Marshall in 21. Here's what scares me about Jacoby Johnson. And maybe this offseason remedies this. But the fact that he was going back and forth with 2 sides of the ball and trying to be this jack of all trades, potentially master of none kind of thing, if that shows up in a big time moment against SEC competition, that's my only reservation about Jacoby Johnson right now. But I love his size, and I think he can certainly play the position if he actually hones in on the position.
And kind of piggybacking off of that, hopefully this makes sense. Here's what I want to see throughout fall camp from Jacoby Johnson. He is an incredible athlete. That's never been a question.
Oh, yeah.
I want to see him become a corner.
Which is the short way of basically what I was just saying.
Exactly. I want to see Jacoby Johnson start to look like a cornerback out there as opposed to a big, freakish athlete that is playing the cornerback position. The UPS guy says CeeDee Lamb was also a freshman starter, or am I wrong? I can't recall whether he actually started for Oklahoma in 2017, but he did see a ton of action that year. Yes, he was on the field plenty. So based on recent experiences, generally speaking, if you are seeing a lot of a true freshman in a wide receiver room that isn't ravaged by injury, then you're probably looking at an early round NFL draft pick one day, which I think that potential is absolutely on the table.
I mean, the last 2 times we've seen that, they have been early round NFL draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
Slim Brady said we had Dumb and Dumber at wide receiver. We needed the help there.
Oh, my goodness. You want to talk about obscure former Sooners. I can recall, and hopefully some of y'all can as well. Do you remember who 2 of Oklahoma's starting wide receivers in that 2020 campaign, week 1, were? It was, to my recollection, and there was all sorts of crap going on with COVID tracing and week-to-week unavailability. But as I recall it, Oklahoma's 3 starting receivers in the season opener were Charleston Rambo. Y'all remember Charleston Rambo.
Mm-hmm.
He was pretty solid.
Good
Wound
player.
up finishing his career at Miami, had an awesome year down there in South Beach. The other 2, this is a fun walk down memory lane. Well, it's a walk down memory lane. Theo Howard, who spent 1 year at Oklahoma after transferring from UCLA, and Obi Obialo.
Who?
Obi Obialo, I kid you not, never actually caught a pass in an Oklahoma uniform. He did drop 2 touchdown catches in the early stages of that 2020 season, but ended up missing the majority of the year with an injury and then medically retired. Broke camp as a starter for Oklahoma at wide receiver, never actually caught a pass in a Sooner uniform. That was the bizarro world of 2020 for you folks. All right, we're done for this Tuesday here on Locked In. For Grayson Singleton, I am Parker Thune. We will see you again tomorrow, same time, same place, to do it all again. In the meantime, stay tuned for The Rush. Tyler McComas and Teddy Lehman coming up next here on The Ref, the home of Sooner fans.